sim racers from around the globe, honoring a revolutionary era of open-wheel racing. With a beast not easily tamed, roaring around legendary circuits at breakneck speed. When engineers and drivers push boundaries, sometimes too far. When heroes muscled roaring beasts wheel to wheel around the hallowed grounds. A time when the only driver aids were his 2 feet, the perfect combination of man, machine, and speed. Experience the competition and the glory of early 80s IndyCar action. The Lionheart Retro Series presented by Next Level Racing starts now. At the start of every new racing season, nerves run through the paddock. Nerves lead to drama, drama leads to chaos, and the opener of the Lionheart Retro Series for 2022 was no different. Emerging through the clouds of chaos to take his second career victory, Chris Lanini stormed into HyperX victory lane to kick off 2022 on top. However, in the 12th closest finish in series history, plenty of names put themselves forward as championship hopefuls. Now though, they must spark some magic at the Magic Mile. This is New Hampshire, and this is the Next Level Racing 150 at New Hampshire, presented by Buttkicker. Hello everyone, and welcome back to racespottv and coverage of the 2022 Lionheart Retro Series. The Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. My name is Arjuna Kankipati, joined alongside, as always, by the wonderful DJ Clark. And right off the back of a firework-filled race at the Homestead Miami Speedway, we go short track racing for the first time this season. Let's dive straight into our Next Level Racing pre-race show. And DJ, fireworks is an understatement. 38 cars took to the track a couple of weeks ago. Only 18 finished on the lead laps. And in those last 3 laps, we saw car after car, driver after driver get mixed up in incidents. Somehow, we didn't finish under caution, and what a finish we had.
What a finish indeed. It was absolutely what you come to expect from these Lotus 79s when you get them on some of the super speedway or mile-and-a-half oval configurations. It is exactly the kind of primer that you want for this season. But really and truly, this is where we get into some of the meat and potatoes of this series. Short tracks, road courses, this is what makes this series so special. And I think this is going to be a little bit more determinant of what will be the pecking order for this series.
Here's a look at your series schedule presented by Next Level Racing. 3 races in the month of March. We'll have a bit of a down break again before we go road racing at Watkins Glen. It all leads, though, to our first Triple Crown of the season. Race 4 takes us to the Tricky Triangle. Let's look at your driver standings presented by Next Level Racing. It was a Graphics LC Motorsports 1, 2, and 3. Lanini leading the way from Rasmus and Tyler Groff. Ricky Hardin, David Sirois, Alex Guyon all up there in the top 6. David Sirois, after a very disappointing performance for him in qualifying, able to work through the field, very reminiscent of what we saw from him in the latter stages of 2021 when his road course pace started to transform into some oval pace as well. Well, you look at these driver standings and you might tot up the numbers and say there's only one team that could be in charge of the team standings presented by HyperX, and you'd be right. Graphics LC Motorsports now have more than 60-point advantage. The thing that I'm now watching for, though, DJ, is last year it was Avatar Auto Racing that led the way. 2 of their drivers are now with MadWorks Motorsports. Yes, they had some issues in those closing stages, but Graphics LC has started this campaign off on the right foot. It's on MadWorks to bounce back after Homestead Miami.
It certainly is. It's going to be the impetus on them, but if anybody can do it, it is the drivers in those MadWorks Motorsports machines. The one thing I will have to say, though, is a couple of the drivers, including Tyler Groff, looking very, very racy here tonight in that Graphics LC Motorsports trio. They may be able to continue on their domination here in New Hampshire tonight.
Let's take a look at your rookie standings presented by Buttkicker. Last year, Matt Taylor was your rookie champion and also fighting for the overall championship. But here, it's Adam Fraser, Hugo Gallas, and Will Gibbs in the top 3. Gibson Racing has been impressing both in the Retro Series and in the Speedway Series, so keep an eye out for them. They will definitely be ones to watch. We're here though for the 6th season of the Lionheart Retro Series as we take a look at our series details presented by Gomez Sim Industries. The car, the classic Lotus 79, not necessarily designed to go oval racing, but we'll take it around the fastest and the shortest ovals around the US. We'll go road racing across the planet. It's always a custom fixed setup, and that's important, DJ, because it does mean you're driving with your 2 hands, your 2 feet. There's no driver aid that's going to come into play.
Most certainly, it is very, very tricky to get these cars to be working around here, but what it is it all comes down to driver skill, and especially at a track like tonight, like New Hampshire, it is all about momentum and rhythm, finding that build in the car, and it also means that these cars are going to feel different from the beginning to the end of the race, and that's something that we'll continue to talk about throughout tonight, as well as over the course of the season, is seeing who has a better feel for the car later on in a run as compared to early on.
Giving out over $7,000 in total cash and prizes. The season champion wins a Next Level Racing GT Track Racing cockpit, as well as a Moser Racing DD base and a Formula rim. Plenty of excitement for those prizes. The Triple Crown, we're not far away from getting that underway. Will we see drivers, a single driver, finally able to conquer all 3 of them as they try and chase down Aaron Morgan, the defending series champion who's on a part-time schedule but does return today because he loves himself a little bit of New Hampshire here and the Magic Mile. Talking through these event details presented by Moser Racing, it's a trip to this Magic Mile, which is not actually a mile, but just over a mile in length for the first short track of the season. Pole position has never managed to convert into HyperX victory lane, and Dustin Wardlow is the man to beat. 3 wins in a row from Season 2 all the way through to Season 4. None of those races did he lead the most laps, so do watch out for that. Last year we saw the closest margin of victory at just over half a tenth of a second, but it is going to be a place where passing is difficult. Maybe expecting a kind of a stop and start race, but ultimately qualifying here much more important than it was at Homestead, DJ.
Yeah, most certainly. This is going to be a little bit processional, I think, especially for the first part of this race, where a lot of the passing that you're going to see is going to be taking place on starts and restarts. But once the car loosens up a little bit, these tires wear in and the fuel loads get lighter, the cars get a little bit dancier, and they're able to be a little bit more aggressive with how they want to be running the car around. So we'll have to keep an eye out for that. Don't be surprised if we see a relatively mundane start to the race and some fireworks fire off later on.
It's what we've come to know, to love, and to expect. That closest finish, by the way, kind of an outlier. A couple of races have ended under caution. A couple of races, the gap's been about 3+ seconds. But the big change, at least when it comes to the tire compound for today, is the fact that we are expecting tires to be a factor. Now, these are bias ply tires, which traditionally were designed to run the entire length of the race. But the update last year has changed things around. We didn't see so much tire strategy at the Homestead Miami Speedway, but the word from the setup guru for Lionheart, Andrew Kinsella, is that he's not expecting the front tires to be able to go more than a single stint. The rear tires, well, maybe if you're smart, maybe if you're careful, you can take just 2 front tires and get 2 stints out of the rears. You might see some drivers try right sides only, but this is a new dimension, DJ. It's something that we haven't seen. We don't know what to expect, and that's where maybe a rookie might have done the testing, might know where he wants his car to be in terms of strategy. It may spring a surprise here in just the 2nd race of the campaign.
They may indeed, and yeah, as you said, drivers not used to taking tires at all in this series, and so that is really, really going to change things up. We're going to have to see what that strategy plays out, and we're going to have to keep an eye on drivers as they come in and out of pit lane, whether they're taking 2, whether they're taking 4. And the big unknown here and the big challenge with taking those tires is the fact that it's not like a normal pit stop that you would see today in IndyCar or Formula One that's going to be about a sub 8-second stop. These take a little while more to be able to get those tire changes done. It takes more than it does to put a tank of fuel in the car. And so if you come in under green and take tires, that is going to rack up massive points, and you are going to go multiple laps down, and you have got to hope that everything plays out well for you with cautions.
Well, practice comes to a close. It's time to go fast in qualifying for the next level racing 150 at New Hampshire, presented by Buttkicker. 35 cars getting ready for this solo qualifying session. They get 5 minutes, the track to themselves. One thing that we tend to see though, DJ, is the fact that because the lap times are so short, you've got the ability to choose when you run out onto track. Is drivers pick when they go out, because we're racing in the afternoon. Temperatures might dip very slightly as we work our way through these 5 minutes of qualifying. Take a look at these conditions right now. 78 degrees Fahrenheit in the air. 106 down on the track itself. Not much wind, which I'm sure the drivers are loving.
I'm sure they are as well, but I think some of these drivers may hold out here for a couple of minutes into qualifying, try to see if they can tick down, and indeed it just did. Track temperature dropping to 105 degrees Fahrenheit with a little bit of cloud cover coming in right now, so that means that this track can cool down, and you want to try to get as cool as can be when you're out running for these hot laps.
Take a look at your defending champion, Aaron Morgan, who says he wanted to run all the road courses, but he likes New Hampshire so much that when I chatted with him a couple of weeks ago and told him, you know, New Hampshire's on the schedules, it's on the schedule soon, he's like, oh, okay, I guess I'm going to have to show up for that one. So the 24 rolls out. No number one for him like we've seen in some of the other series, especially for, of course, Adam Blocker, who campaigns at number one in the Lionheart IndyCar series, but the times are coming on in already. One thing that we'll watch for is it lap 1 that's faster? Is it lap 2 that's faster? Reagan's gone fastest, Morgan's half a second off the benchmark, but lap 2 rockets him up to second, Rasmus in third. It's looking good again for the graphics team and the graphics LC Motorsports camp.
It is indeed. Series organizer George Anzaldo able to get a time up into 7th. Will Gibson able to put in a time to get P3 right now. A great run for him, and very, very close times on the board right now. 1st and 15th separated by less than half a second.
Michael O'Brien with the 25.047, and that's not just pole, that's pole by a huge margin. Almost 7 hundredths clear of the rest of the field. Last time out, the field was split by tenths of a second across of all the 38 cars. That is a chasm that is going to be mighty hard to overcome.
It is indeed, and we haven't seen anybody even get close to that here at this point. A couple of cars still out on track trying to see what they can do, looking around to see who's going to be able to try to put in times. We still have about a dozen or so drivers that have yet to put a fast time down, so plenty of time for them.
Here comes David Rodriguez. We know he loves a bit of short track action. He loves the fuel games as well. Not expecting too many fuel strategies if we go green, but when we get the cautions to mix things up, could David Rodriguez spring a surprise? 25.258, marginal improvement as Frazier goes to 7th. Rodriguez goes up to 13th spot. Now we wait for the final couple of cars to come across the line. Now we'll work and see Paul Jenkins working his way after just finishing his final lap. He goes 11th fastest provisionally. Chris Fowler showed plenty of speed last time. He's still got to do lap number 1.
Yes, he does, and he's going to dive that car down in 4, taking the high lane around here. That's about what you're going to see for most of the race. You don't want to be running low here as the inside of the car, the inside of the track, rather, is off camber. It can really throw you off. That time, not great there for Fowler, only 27th. Now he dives it low, running in that second lane, just trying to build momentum on that first lap.
Blue, green, and all sorts of colors on this car. You always note as well the slight offset to the left that the steering has. I always wonder what that means for the drivers. We'll talk about that more maybe during the race itself. But here comes Fowler to the line, 25.047, the benchmark. And my word, I thought that was going to be insurmountable. But for the MadWorks Racing camp, they've gone 1 and 2, top of the timing board. What a lap from Chris Fowler.
Absolutely mega, and that was really all precipitated by that high line run to just build up momentum as much as possible. Here comes Craig Forsyth trying to see what he has got in it right now as he works around on his second lap.
Got his first career Lionheart victory just this past week. Can he do the double after winning in the DW12? 25.01, the benchmark is only a 25.5. That's going to be down the order. It's only going to be mid-top 20s for him, and indeed he's down all the way in 29th. Plenty of end-of-line penalties, which I do think means that we are done with qualifying the order will not be shaken up. And, well, you quickly just talk about MadWorks Esports. Last time out, last couple of laps kind of disappointed them. They started this one off the best way possible, and knowing how difficult passing is going to be, that's crucial for their hopes.
It is indeed, but do remember that we haven't seen a driver from pole position win the race here at New Hampshire, so could that curse continue on? Chris Fowler's going to be hoping to change that up.
Well, I tell you what, 142 laps are on the board. Let's go ahead and take a look at our Buttkicker starting grid for the Next Level Racing 150 at New Hampshire. Chris Fowler on pole position makes it a MadWorks Motorsports lockout of the front row. Those front two cars and a different postcode to the rest of them behind. Chris Reagan rolls off on the inside of Ricky Hardin on row 2, while Matt Taylor and Aaron Morgan, championship rivals and teammates in 2021, share row number 3. Michael Schofield and Adam Frazier 7th and 8th, while Will Gibson and Mike Rasmus make up the top 10. Chris Staples and Paul Jenkins, 1,000 split them, they'll share row number 6. George Anzaldo and Gabriel With will be in 13th and 14th, with David Rodriguez and Cody Wenz in 15th and 16th. Alex Guyon and David Sirois, the Raven Lavoie Motorsports pair, 17th and 18th for them. Tyler Groff, Isaac Snyder, 19th and 20th, while Luis Gonzalez Nunez and Hugo Gallas are on row 11. Chris Lanini and Rodrigo Munoz right behind them, 23rd and 24th. Cristobal Valenzuela and Trevin Malone, 25th and 26th, while Mike Rigney and Robert Mikes share row 14. Craig Forsyth and Danny Roberts have some work to do, rounding out the top 30. Luke Daniels, the final car to set a lap time here. Dustin Wardlow has an end-of-line penalty. If he wants to make it 4 wins here at New Hampshire, he's got a whole heap of work to do. Gary Gozzo, Jim Herrick, and Marius Velokas, all cars as well that do have end-of-line penalties after the melee that we did see New Hampshire at Homestead, Miami, but we've transitioned now to short track racing. What a treat we've got in store, and as always, we've got plenty of onboard cameras, but we've got 4 featured ones to walk you through right now. Let's start, of course, with Chris Fowler, who has your Buttkicker onboard camera. Sim racing is better with Buttkicker. Visit .com.
And then we've got the Graphics Esports camera on board with Mike Rasmus. Graphics Esports, world-class design from real world to virtual. Visit www.graphicsesports.com.
Ricky Hardin carries the Next Level Racing on board. Take your racing to the next level. Visit nextlevelracing.com.
And then finally we have Matt Taylor with the HyperX on board. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers, and HyperX is always ready to game.
And the beauty of sim racing, it's not just those 4, but the entire 35-car field that will have cameras on board with. Quick predictions here, DJ. Tires are going to play a factor. Fuel will play a factor as well. Who's going to come out on top in your mind?
I'm going to be keeping my eye here on Aaron Morgan. Starting back in 6th, Morgan is a very, very fierce driver, and I think he is going to be one to watch for.
Of course, on a part-time schedule, will your defending champion show why he clinched it in the closest ever Lionheart championship in history? Competition, commitment, excitement. This is Lionheart, and this is the Next Level Racing 150 at New Hampshire. We're racing at the Magic Mile. Single file for the top 2, some action for 7th position as we squabble our way down. You said this might be a procession, but onto the inside, here comes O'Brien, who lost 2nd initially to Reagan. He's trying to fight that one back as they complete lap number 1.
Indeed, he is trying to fight it back there as you see O'Brien down to the inside. Reagan trying to work that high line, looking back through the field. Everybody doing a good job here. Remember, the cambering on this track, it's relatively flat, so you really have to be very aggressive to make any sort of pass around that high side. You've just got to chuck the car into the corner.
And maybe that's why we expect the tires to really burn themselves up, as O'Brien will get back up into 2nd, but already 8/10 clear of his teammate in front. Another thing to think about is with 35 cars, if we get some long green flag runs, traffic management is going to be oh so difficult. Look at the Hornet's Nest though. 20th on, almost in 20th on back, excuse me. David Rodriguez in 16th trying to get to the inside of Cody Wenz. And with the spanking, DJ, where do you want to run the car?
I want to run that car pretty much where Rodriguez ran it right there. You want to be in that second lane around the track. Now, as I said, there is a little bit of off-camber that exists on that lower lane. You don't want to run the car there. It can really, really throw you off and out into the outside wall. That lower lane, the second lane, that is perfect positioning for Rodriguez.
So the top 10 or so very much committed to the single file as yellow flag flies. Trouble on the racetrack, first time today. And oh, that's Luke Daniels not just in trouble in the wall, and he's got mixed up with the Candyman. Dustin Wardlow's hopes of making it 4 wins in 6 visits here to New Hampshire have gone up in smoke. Both cars take the tow, and we slow things down for the first caution of the day.
All right, so this is going to be a little bit of a mental reset for these drivers, and rest assured, Chris Fowler not happy to see this come out. He had a great gap built up. Let's go back to the replay and see exactly what happened there as we come around, coming out of turn 2 there. This is going to happen down into 3.
So they enter the corner. You see the Candyman in the white and red, and oh, I think that might be Forsyth that gets a little bit squirrely just in front of him, and that is spectacular. 10 out of 10 for the attempt, but 0 out of 10 for the landing for Dustin Wardlow. Now look rearwards with Craig Forsyth. They're not going to give us the greatest angle. This is going to give us a slightly better one. So it is Forsyth that I don't think he gets loose there. I think he just gets a little slow into the corner.
Yeah, and that can really happen around here. It's a lot like you're driving a road course in terms of having to predict where the other driver ahead of you is going to brake. You watch it, he tries to go down low and then just loses the car a little bit. It wasn't loose, but it was pushing up the track a little bit, and he had to slow down to catch that to prevent him from running into the outside wall. And I just don't think Dustin was anticipating that happening, and well, you saw the results.
Couple of cars have come down onto pit lane. Cody Wenzen, Hugo Gallas, Forsyth maybe with a bit of damage, but Gary Godso, Jim Herrick electing to follow. Remember, it's a 142-lap race. The fuel window just over 50 laps. So an interesting call from these guys. Maybe they'll try something different when it comes to the tires. All the times indicate that it was a fuel-only stop for them. Interesting call from some of the front runners, from some of the guys further back in the field to come down and pit. What's your thoughts on that call?
Well, if you're farther down in the field here at this point, Arjuna, you've really got nothing to lose. We've talked about how difficult it is to pass around here. You might as well try to go off cycle a little bit, see if you can do something to catch another caution right. We average about 3 or 4 cautions around this circuit whenever we race here, and so you're banking on another one coming, and if you catch it at just the right time, that can find you up to the front of the field, and I like the gamble.
I'm going to throw you under the bus for a second here. You said you don't really like this track. Why? What makes this track so difficult in your mind?
It is such a rhythm-dependent track. You really have to feel it out, and to be able to hot lap around here in these Lotus 79s is one thing, and you can get a good rhythm that way, but when you get into the aero wash around here, it completely changes the way you have to run. And for me, it was just a track that I could never find that rhythm trailing behind another car. I could never really find the speed behind another car to be able to keep up behind. It's just a difficult track.
So the first caution will come to a close. Luke Daniels and Dustin Wardlow have both been mixed up. Luke Daniels has already left the racetrack. Back to the green. Chris Fowler has led all 8 of the laps so far. He'll lead across the line to bring us back to the green. Nice orderly restart here, but Reagan again gets a great launch to look down low. Matt Taylor follows in behind, trying to make it. And Madworks Motorsports 1, 2, and 3 for the second time this season. You think about the run that they had at the Homestead Miami Speedway. They're bouncing, they're keeping up, straight where they left off as Morgan looks inside as well.
Yeah, they really are keeping up a good pace here early on, but it's a long race to go. They've got to be careful, and as we've talked about, tire wear is going to be a big thing to keep in mind. I wouldn't be surprised if you see some of these leaders backing off a little bit, not being nearly as aggressive, not going too wide as a way to preserve these tires.
Taylor holds on. Michael O'Brien holds on as well. We'll look backwards at a battle between David Sirwa and Luis Gonzalez Nunez in that 14 yellow and white car down low as he tries to sweep around down the inside of the Canadian in front of him. Also see the lines they're running. They're not all the way down on that yellow line. They're arcing the corner just that little bit more, DJ.
Yeah, they really are, and that's, as I said, it's sort of twofold. Number one, you want to keep momentum up around here as much as possible and use as much of the banking as you can, but then also that low line, that lowest groove there, it's actually off camber. It comes back up against you and can really throw the car off.
Plenty of battles, as you can see right now. Tyler Graf and Paul Jenkins having a bit of a squabble over 14th and 15th, where David Rodriguez is trying to get in on the fun as well. But Sirwa and Nunez have gone alongside one another for now 2, maybe 3 laps. It's some great racing, and Nunez will finally get in front and get the move done and set his sights forward on trying to close to the car in front of him. You talk about the rhythm here. It's a track as well where you sometimes, DJ, get on the brakes to slow your momentum.
Yeah, specifically when you're following here in a longer path, you are going to just do a little bit of brush braking, and it's not necessarily to slow the car down as much as it is to just get the nose pointed down. Now, obviously, the majority of the downforce in these cars is generated by the ground effect here, but because of the slower speeds coming around the corner, the ground effect is not nearly as effective as it would be at other circuits, and so you need just a little bit of dab of the brakes right at the beginning of the corner to point that nose where you want it to go.
Right on board with Matthew Schofield, and keep those words from DJ in your mind. Just watch the hands. You can't see the feet dancing on the throttle and the brake, but they were side by side a moment ago. They've stretched themselves out since then. And I mentioned the traffic slightly earlier. Let's take a look at that track map, and you can already see that the leader's coming across the start-finish line now. The back half of the field is still on that back straightaway. Yes, they're only split by about 13 seconds, but at a place like this, 13 seconds is an age. Give it about 7 more laps, DJ, and potentially Chris Fowler will find himself on the back of Hugo Gallas.
Yeah, and that's not what he wants to see, although I think it's going to be a little bit more of a problem for guys like Reagan or potentially O'Brien, who we've seen start to favor a little bit of the high line. That would be where I would say to go if I'm a lapped car. I want to go super high, get out of the way for everything. But with drivers opting to take some different lines through the corners, that's going to really throw things off, and these lapped cars are going to have nowhere to hide.
On board with David Rodriguez, who won in dramatic fashion on a short course last year. Fuel strategy definitely played a factor then, and well, plenty of people still wonder exactly how at Iowa he was able to stretch the fuel out so far, but after that managed to back it up with a victory on a super speedway at Michigan. Trying to now be consistent in this 2022 Lionheart Retro Series campaign. Tyler Graf working on the back of Gabriel Wood as well. Plenty of fighting back here. The top two starting to just stretch their legs bit by bit, breaking away. There you can see Fowler and O'Brien already now 1.2 seconds clear of Chris Reagan, and Reagan's going to start really feeling the pressure from Matt Taylor to make it a MadWorks 1-2-3.
Yeah, he certainly is, and the problem here for Reagan is the fact that he's not going to have the draft to be able to pull up on these straightaways. Now, that is going to come to his benefit when he's coming through the corners. He's going to have some clean air. He'll be able to position the car a little bit more of how he wants to, and he probably won't have to use the brake coming through the corners, just a little bit of a lift-off, as he doesn't need to really reinforce that nose turning. But he is going to be losing out on the straight line speed, and that could present an open opportunity there for Matt Taylor.
So you said you don't like New Hampshire, but compare this to a place like Iowa. Is short track racing in this car all about rhythm? But is that rhythm harder to find here than at some of the other places we'll visit in 2022?
Yes, it is. The rhythm at Iowa is a little bit different than there. It's you don't really ever have to brake at Iowa. It's more of a matter of lifting off. I had a great run in Iowa last time out. I was actually running up with David in that Magic Fuel race and ran out of fuel on the back stretch, and I'm totally not still bitter about it. But no, Iowa, Richmond, those kind of places, because you're constantly turning the car, really, and they just feel so much more compressed. It's a different feeling to it. They almost feel like a miniaturized super speedway. A track like this, you have enough time to think about setting up into the corners that it breaks a little bit of that rhythm. You have to think about setting it up rather than just sort of naturally responding to it.
Craig Forsyth, after being involved in that first caution of the race, battles with Cody Wenzen. These are the first cars to roll down onto pit road. A gap to the leader holding fairly steady, which is important for them. Rasmus alongside with Adam Fraser had a look, backs out of it, has another look down into turn 3. There goes the 68 trying to challenge, but Fraser should roll that momentum on the high side.
Yeah, and what's going to happen here for him is he's going to need to continue to poke his nose down to the inside. We saw that earlier with Luis Gonzalez-Nunez and David Sirois, as we saw a multiple lap side-by-side battle. It's very, very rare here around New Hampshire that you can get a one-turn, a one-and-done kind of move. You really need to be prepared for the long haul of a pass around here and be prepared to go too wide for multiple laps.
Wonderful shot on the nose cone of the 68. Big shout out and a thank you to Dougie Beard for all of our track cameras today. Big thank you to Tyler Maxson, who was racing in the IMSA Michelin Pilot. Well, I shouldn't say racing. He didn't get the chance to step behind the wheel of the car, but was ready to compete in the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge race at Sebring today. Unfortunately, his teammate had a horrendous shunt with a GT4 car that was lapping them, and that is very likely a chassis written off for the Brian Herder Autosport camp. Rasmus rides in 8th. Your leader's building that gap bit by bit. Taylor not able to get close enough to put enough pressure, I think, on Reagan to force a move. Morgan's closing as well. The real fighting is in the heart of the pack, where, again, Nunez now side by side with Alex Gouillon. Gouillon not having any of this, fighting back on the outside line.
No, and we've seen the persistence, though, out of Nunez here to be able to really try to push his way forward. I like what the 14 is doing. He is not taking no for an answer. He's continuing to push ahead. It's a very gutsy strategy. Now, the one caveat to that is that it may wear his tires down a little bit earlier, and watch for him later on in the run to potentially have a little bit of problems with those tires.
I love the sound of these engines. Oh, they're just great. Now, again, this is not a car that was designed to go oval racing, but it's one that puts on a show. And we go back to something we were talking in our next level pre-race show, DJ, which is that slight kink to the left, where the steering is always somewhat pointing to the left. Does that help you on an oval where the car's naturally trying to pull leftwards, or what are your thoughts on that?
Frankly, it's one of those things as you drive it that you don't really notice it after you get used to it. You just sort of naturally adapt to it, and it becomes one of the things that you run, that you just know that there is that slight kink to the left in terms of steering. And people who watch you drive, or if you scream to Twitch, that you sit there and people go, wait a minute, how are you going straight with that little kink? But you don't even think about it after you get used to the car.
Yeah, no, it's something that I guess you just build that muscle memory, right? And very much like in other cars, you have those little quirks. For example, in a GT3 car, you understand how it's going to get into the ABS and how you want to avoid that, especially here on iRacing, where the ABS tends to be a little bit more primitive. So you understand what that feeling is like, and you know when to let off the brakes just a little bit. Similar kind of a thing that you'd see here today. Again, there was a big change last week across the service, not necessarily to this car, with the release of the new iRacing build. 2022 Season 2 is now underway. Update to the likes of the GT3 cars, new content coming in leaps and bounds. A couple of tracks, including a dirt track being added to iRacing, which I'm sure the dirt community loves. Got Winton and Aston Martin GT4, Brazilian stock cars, plenty of exciting content as we now look at the battle between Lanini and Malone all the way back in the pack. And I've got to criticize Trevor Malone for just a second here. No teal, number 34. He's got to get on that and get that distinctive car back out on track. But very big build, DJ, and one with plenty of excitement no matter what corner of the sim you like to partake in. A new NASCAR Legends car being added as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great range of stuff. I know I, for example, definitely took out the Aston Martin and had some good fun in that. I'm always a big fan of the car, and oh my goodness, Arjuna, it sounds so fantastic. It's got that AMR grunt the way it goes, and that has been a whole bunch of fun for me to take out. Also, being a good Hoosier boy, I had to go out and take out the old midget around Federated Auto Parts Speedway and go tear up some dirt.
new news as well released from iRacing, and for one of our partners here at Lionheart, the Buttkicker guys, got a new product that's available for you to go check out. They're also now going to be the title sponsors of the World of Outlaws Buttkicker Late Model World Championship. Stick around on the iRacing esports network for coverage of that, produced by the wonderful team here at racespottv. Plenty of news coming out. Riding on board with Tyler Graf, who after being on the podium last time out, a little bit back in the pack, if you will, DJ. He's all the way in 14th, and you said this might be a somewhat processional race, and I don't want to say it's going exactly that way, but it is, again, a race where it's difficult to pass. We've had that one caution, we've gone green since then, and if we get into the pit stop window, we always talk about this on ovals, but the danger zone. You don't necessarily want to be the one that comes into pit first. At a track like this, you're only going one lap down, but one lap down when a caution flies might just ruin your chances of the race.
Exactly, and especially in these cars, as we talked about, that are so sensitive to those changes in fuel load and change in weight. They get looser, they get slipperier when you come to the end of the pit stop cycle. And so you really want to try to extend as long as possible, because as everybody gets to the end of the cycle, that means that the cars are a lot dancier, they're a lot livelier, and they're a lot trickier to control. And you're more likely to get a yellow near the end of that pit stop cycle. That's why I kind of liked the strategy here out of Forsyth, Wenson, Herrick, Godso, and Hugo Galaz to be able to just try to extend that cycle out a little bit more. Even if it is 6 laps, that buys them a little bit of breathing room.
Counterpoint maybe is if we do see people taking tires, maybe they're... I was going to say maybe they're able to go a bit faster. I don't think that's going to be a major concern as Rodriguez and Jenkins still go side by side. Jenkins holds on there. Because I'm looking at the lap times here. Best lap time for Chris Fowler is a 25.429. The last lap time, a 25.433. We've lost 100th of a second in the 39 laps that these guys have been out on track at the front of this field. So we want to maybe talk about how tire life is a big deal. It's not being borne out on track just yet.
No, it's not being borne out as of yet, and we'll have to see how it plays out over the course of it. As you said, these tires are normally built to go long. It's just the increased lateral loads around here. We didn't have it last time out at Homestead because of the banking. That reduces some of the tire wear. But because this is a flat track, there's a lot more lateral load that's being carried across the surface of the tire, and that really causes them to wear a little bit more. You can see there in that great shot from Dougie Beard, some cars starting to get a little bit squirrely coming out of turn 4. That's going to keep happening here as this race goes along. Watch for that to start being a factor.
And surely then you maybe want to migrate your line up just a little bit more, reduce the amount of force that you're adding onto that tire. And Rodriguez, who was going low for the early stage of this race, is almost running, as they called it in NASCAR last year, a video game line, riding up against the wall. Caution flies, trouble again. Second time today, and it's Danny Roberts in that 43 car that's caught the brunt of it. I don't see anyone else that's slowing themselves down, so maybe this is just a single car incident. We'll have to go and see.
Well, this is Danny on your screen there. Looks relatively put together, exiting out of turn 2. Watching him here now going into 3. That's the 13 of Isaac Snyder underneath him. Little bit of contact there with Isaac, I think.
Does he just clear himself, though? That's the question. We'll only really find out by riding on board with Isaac himself. So, on the entry to turn 3, it's one of those things where it's so difficult to tell, but first indications, at least from my perspective, is I think Danny Roberts just tries to pinch where there was always a car alongside him.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that, and you can really look at the way that it goes. That's where those dashed lines along the corners really help you point that out. Isaac doing a good job of holding that line. I think Danny may have given him just a little bit too much of a pinch, but what this is going to do, Arjuna, is this means pit stops are coming strong.
And you'd expect everybody would come down. Now, will people take tires? Will anyone try? Oh, you can see up on the jacks they go for the first time in a long old time. Tires being taken, but look how short that was for some of these cars. That was a really short roll for them. Now, was that a one-tire strategy as they're 3 wide off of pit road? befuddled but loving the fact that we've now got to figure out what's going on with the rubber on these cars.
Well, the one driver that I know that took a little bit of an alternate strategy was Ricky Harden. It looked like he only took front tires. Everybody else, at least going up onto 2 jacks, so that may have meant that they either took 4 or they took 2, and they were just the outside tires as they would go in potentially. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But I think Ricky Harden's strategy, one that I'm going to be keeping an eye on there in that number 7 machine.
Now, big mover, or loser, I guess you would say, is Chris Reagan, who's dropped behind Taylor and Morgan. So it is now a MadWorks 1, 2, and 3, as still under caution for the second time today here. Now, I believe the lights are still on the pace car, so we're going to get at least... No, they're off. Going back to green this time. All the field came on down. From here, you could make it with just one more pit stop. Excuse me, lights are still on the pace car. Clearly, I need to get my eyes checked. But from here, you can make it with just one more pit stop. The question will be, if we get more cautions, depending on when they fly, how do you cycle through this race?
Well, that's going to be the question. I think right now what's going to be on the forefront of these drivers' minds is now they know how these tires are going to degrade a little bit, and they're going to be pushing very, very hard at the start of the race, at the start of this stint. They are going to absolutely try to be flying on it. We've seen how hard it is, and watch in particular for Matt Taylor, I think, in 3rd place. He does not want to give O'Brien and Fowler that same gap that he did last time.
So this time, the lights should drop off of the iRacing pace car. There it is. He'll be down on pit lane once more. Our delightful pace car driver, Benny, who's seen plenty of action today. Benny and Barney, it's a nice little pair. Get back with 46 laps in the books. We'll work lap 47. Couple of cars diving onto pit lane to top off on fuel. Hugo Gallas and Gary Godso. And you were talking about how pitting under that first caution was a good idea. I like this call from the two of them as well to just top that car off with fuel coming to the green flag.
Yeah, that just gives them a little bit of an edge there as they go along, and it could just be the strategic advantage they need if this becomes a fuel-saving race.
So 2 cautions are about to be in the books. A race that has seen 1 caution, 2 cautions. We've never seen 3. Seen more than that, though. Still, Chris Fowler leads. He's led every single lap of this Next Level Racing 150 at New Hampshire. We're back underway. There's a good jump again from Fowler. The top 3 all splintering themselves forward. Ricky Harden lunges down low on Erasmus, trying to rip away 6th spot. Might just have got that move done. Maybe sleeping on the restart, but Ricky Harden has taken full advantage of Mike Rasmus.
That was a mega move and definitely precipitated by taking those fresh front tires. You can see he's just got a little bit more drive mid-corner there. It does that bright blue number 7 machine. He looks very, very strong here in the early stages of this restart.
What's the tire life? What's the tire strategy going to be for all of these teams and drivers? Tyler Graf, Chris Staples alongside one another as they bobble out of turn 2. Big shuffle down to the inside as well from Paul Jenkins as he looks to the inside of the 0-4. Already now an 0.8 of a second advantage up front as once more Chris Fowler uses that clean air to run away. Clean air seems to be oh so important. David Rodriguez looks to the inside of Paul Jenkins as Luis Gonzalez Nunez tries to get past Trevor Malone as well. They're 2 wide, 2 deep for the outside line, rolling plenty of momentum as they come down into turn 3.
Yeah, you're really seeing this aggressiveness start to play out. As I said, they know they need to get these passes done now while everybody's bunched up, and they're able to do it. It looks like Jenkins has got a nose ahead as they cross over the start-finish line. Not sure how long he's going to be able to hold on to it, though. There is Jenkins up front. He is able to pull out ahead, and now the battle behind him starting to shape up between Rodriguez and Lanini.
Lanini going from victory lane to battling to stay inside the top 20. Qualified down in 23rd, has worked himself up 6 positions so far in this race as we work our way past the first 33% of this 142-lap race. Now, no matter how much you want to run your preferred line in a spot in the pack like this, you've got to run the line that you're given, and that's where adaptability is is going to be vital. Gap out front, over a second now. Fowler really maybe taking to heart what you were saying just as that caution was coming to an end, DJ, whereas you now understand what the tires are doing. You have the numbers as to how much they have worn off as well. So Chris Fowler knows how much he can attack in clean air, and so he's going for it straight away. Michael O'Brien's trying to close him down, but that 20 car is a rocket ship in the early stages here.
Yeah, it certainly is. Really able to pull a good gap. And Arjuna, that point you made about running the line that you're given, that has really two meanings behind it. One, it is in terms of where the other cars are around you that you're running side by side with. The other part of it is trying to get a little bit of clean air onto the front of your car. You want to run about a half a lane up or down of the car in front of you to just get some clean air onto the front wing of this car to help that car rotate around the corner a little bit more. If you're able to do that, you're able to run a little bit faster, and that's why I think you see the multitude of lines that drivers are taking around here.
We're getting a good look on board with Luis Gonzalez Nunez, who is being our roving cameraman right now. The battle for 17th continues to go on, and that's a good move from Trevor Malone to finally get on past Chris Lanini. You go down low, you might pay the price. Lanini's going to fight this one back, but might have to watch in his rear view mirrors as Luis Gonzalez Nunez closes bit by bit. Further forward, again, that car in third place just falling by the wayside. Maybe it's the double dose of dirty air that he's being fed, but Matt Taylor, now that he's clear of Chris Reagan up into third spot, not able to hang on to the back end of Michael O'Brien. Aaron Morgan, title rival of Matt Taylor last year, hunts him down. Good to see Morgan back in the car. Yes, he'll only be part-time looking for the road courses, so we'll see him at Watkins Glen in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, and that's going to be a fantastic race to see. Oh, it is so much fun to watch these Lotus 79s tear around that classic circuit. But as for right now, he's really just got to be, I think, patient here. Doesn't want to be too aggressive. I'd be a little bit worried about with just as aggressive as we're seeing Lanini running here right now. That's going to tear up those tires. He's got to be careful about it. You don't want to be running too wide. There you see Malone trying to dive back down on him. This may be great for the cameras, but I'm going to have some serious worry about those cars' tire life. We saw just how many drivers opted to take tires on that last stop. This is not going to end well if they continue to keep this battle up.
I say this all the time. It's always great when we see some battling happening, but it's never great for tires. It's never great for the time as well. Now, they're not losing too much ground to those in front, but you go to a place like Watkins Glen, if you're side by side into a place like the exit of the boot section, for example, you're costing yourself 0.4, half a second. Time that you can't afford to lose at this level of competition. So, something more to keep in mind, I think, for what's ahead of us. As for now, Lanini's cycled back in front of Trevor Malone, and we'll try and hold on to that one. Malone, a little bit wide through the corner, opens the door for Nunez to look down low. One of the unluckiest drivers in 2021, had a decent start to 2022.
Has indeed, and yeah, Trevor there, I think he just got on the loud pedal a little bit early through the corner. That caused the car to drift up the track a little bit. He's able to gather it up back under him here. Takes a little bit of a look to the inside here of Luis, trying to see if there's anything to be had. We ride on board with the front nose of Alex Gaillon as they go around, and that was some very, very heads-up play there from Luis Gonzalez Nunez to be able to recognize that mistake out of Trevor Malone and absolutely pounce on it.
Out of turn two, Guyon's down 3 from where he started, and by no means the biggest loser, though, of the day so far. Take a look at the left side of your screen, as actually the two teammates will be side by side, Guyon and Sirois, on the edge of the top 20. A good day for Tyler Graf, who's +6 from where he started. So is Chris Lanini. Trevor Malone is +7. But the biggest gainer is Marius Valakus, who has, after getting that end-of-line penalty to start off the race, actually worked himself up 11 spots, but by virtue of starting dead last at the tail end of the field, still only running 24th, has got plenty of improvement potentially to go. That move from Sirois might actually open the door for Isaac Snyder to come and join the fun as well. Going to have another look as David Sirois to the inside of his teammate. I don't think this is the wisest thing at this point in the race.
No, I think at this point you need to do a little bit of formation flying, but you tell that to true-born racers, and it is a harder thing to do in practice. They just want to be absolutely trying to duke it out on each other. There they get into line a little bit more. Alex able to hold his way ahead of David Sirois. Is there? Nope, there he goes again, trying to dive back down to the inside. Clearly, Team Order's not really in effect here.
It's only race 2, so there's no championship on the line just yet, but you'd expect as we work our way through the campaign, potentially, that will change around. Looks like the RSR teammate to Isaac Snyder, David Rodriguez, had a thought about getting past Paul Jenkins. Now, has not been able to get anything done there, and he falls back in the formation once more. There you see the separation between those top 3 cars. 1.4 between Fowler and O'Brien. 1.6 then back is Matt Taylor. They are getting closer and closer to dealing with lap traffic. Only 6 or so laps away as well from the halfway point of this race. Fuel window, hypothetically, would open at around lap 90 or so. So keep that in mind as well, DJ.
Yeah, drivers are going to be running to that number, and we haven't really talked about the ability to fuel save around here because you're off of the throttle for so long coming through the corners, really feathering it as you come around. That gives you the ability to save a little bit of fuel. Now, it's not going to be nearly as much as we saw last time out at Homestead or on some of the other more wide open tracks that we see, but drivers will be thinking about that number, and it may not just come to play in terms of being able to make it an extra lap or two, but also if you're able to take less fuel in the pit stop, that can be to your benefit.
Well, we don't usually do this for drivers that have had incidents before we get to this Moser Racing driver profile, but let's just highlight very quickly Dustin Wardlow. 80 career starts in this Lionheart Retro Series, 38 top 10s, 24 top 5. 6 wins, of which half of them have come at this very place, but the most significant win of them all surely was in Season 1 of the Lionheart Retro Series at our Indianapolis 250. Can't wait to get that Triple Crown race underway once more. He's also won a second Triple Crown race, actually 2 more, at the Auto Club season finale, but experienced driver, veteran driver who we didn't see too regularly in 2021. Good to have him back. Unfortunate that his race ended within the first 10 laps, so he looked to make it 4 out of 6 wins here at New Hampshire.
Yeah, very unfortunate. I was really looking to see just how well he was going to be able to piece his way through the field, really side his way through, and very unfortunate to see him taken out as early as he was.
Looks like some more attempts at passing. That's Nunez getting attacked by Lanini. So Lanini's actually cycled back a couple of spots as Isaac Snyder now has his teammate joining him, Valiocas, looking down the inside of Bobby Mikes. 17 second splits. First from 32nd, 35 has become 32 because, of course, Danny Roberts retired. Luke Daniels, Dustin Wardlow retiring after their moment with one another in the opening 10 laps of the race. And if you're Godso, if you're Gallas, if you're Wenzen, maybe you're getting a little bit concerned here, DJ, because it's good that you've got that extra fuel, but if you're 1 lap down, the extra fuel is really going to count for naught.
Indeed, you've got to be praying for a caution here as part of the problem is you can make that off-cycle strategy work if you've got the speed to be able to keep up with some of the leaders, but it looks like they are just off the pace here a little bit. And remember, them taking just that little bit of splash of fuel at the end, the drivers who did come down previous to that strategy of pitting on that first caution lap that we had, that is basically negated here. So it is really just Godso and Hugo Velez that are off cycle here, taking a little bit of extra fuel, just 2 laps more.
Past the halfway point of your next level racing 150 at New Hampshire, presented by Buttkicker. One driver has led every single one of the 72 laps in the books, but remember the history of this race. The driver that has led the most laps has never entered HyperX victory lane. You're watching racespottv, and coverage of the 2022 Lionheart Retro Series. We'll be right back with the back half of this race.
With the Buttkicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Buttkicker, the future is feeling.
Welcome back to racespottv and round 2 in your 2022 Lionheart Retro Series presented by Next Level Racing. We've gone from the relatively high banks at the Homestead Miami Speedway to the short track and the Magic Mile at New Hampshire. Welcome to the Next Level Racing 150 at New Hampshire presented by Buttkicker. My name is Arjuna Kankipati alongside with DJ Clark for today's action. It's been relatively quiet, DJ, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. This is the kind of track where you expect maybe a little bit of chaos. We've had 2 cautions, small incidents though. 35 cars started, 32 are still running. Fascinating race, strategy will play its part, but it's MadWorks Motorsports that has been dominant so far. Chris Fowler has led every single lap of this race.
Yeah, he has been absolutely the class of this field without question. Michael O'Brien, Matt Taylor not able to even hold a candle to Fowler here at this point. He has just been able to lead from the drop of the green flag, hoping to break that curse that we talked about, how a pole sitter and a most laps led leader has never won this race in the history of the Lionheart Retro Series. Fowler looking in good contention here for that as we do crucially approach that lap 90 or so point where we anticipate the fuel window starting to open up.
Now in history, this car has typically been a rocket ship the lighter the fuel load gets, so that'd be something to watch for. Chris Fowler, in fact, though, has just put in the fastest lap of the race at 25.3. So keep an eye out for him. As you can see in front of him, just entering into turn number 1, that's Cody Wenzen, who will be the first car to go 1 lap down on track if this pace continues, if we stay under the green flag condition. Plenty of excitement in this race. Chris Lanini, a winner a couple of weeks ago, has been one of the drivers really trying to force moves down low. Hasn't really worked out for him. Now, I don't want to say he's burned up his equipment and his tires just yet, but has started to fall back somewhat. But I maybe think that working lap 40 of the stint here, DJ, potentially just trying to bide his time and get into that pit stop cycle. Green flag pit stops here. They're not as hard maybe as they would have been at Homestead, but by no means is it an easy feat.
No, it's not, and you really want to start to prepare yourself here at this point for those green flag stops. You start to got to think about it a little bit, maybe a little bit of gamesmanship. Now, the one advantage that you're going to have in pitting here at the Miracle Mile as opposed to Homestead is you don't necessarily need to worry about losing that drafting buddy. You can kind of come in by yourself here and pit to your own accord, and so that is going to be something that we will start to see to play out. You pit when you want to, not when necessarily the rest of the pack dictates that you do.
Well, Cody Wenzen becomes the first to dive in now. That's a bit early if you ask me, but he was about to go a lap down. Maybe he's just trying to stay out of trouble. You called this place the Miracle Mile, DJ. Is there a new name that you're coming up for this place?
No, that's just a habit of me living on Miracle Mile for a very long time in Los Angeles and a little bit of a Freudian slip.
It's a busy weekend of motorsports coming up. There's so much excitement. Sebring is hosting its now somewhat traditional doubleheader where the World Endurance Championship and the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge, the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, all of the IMSA sanctioned competitions are in the Sunshine State for a weekend of action that's already begun. The World Endurance Championship race is tomorrow on Friday. The 12 hours of Sebring the following day on Saturday. On Saturday, you've got Formula One qualifying, you've got IndyCar qualifying, you've got 2 NASCAR races in the form of the trucks and the Xfinity cars. But I think the thing that most people are keeping their eyes on and with close interest is the Formula One World Championship season kickoff at Bahrain with a new generation of cars, maybe a new pecking order, plenty of excitement for us to talk about. And I think the thing that you and I, DJ, being people that live on the West Coast, that are most excited about is the fact that it's actually a reasonable time for us to wake up and watch.
It's only 8 a.m. It's fantastic. I don't have to get up at 4:30 or 5 in the morning to watch a race, Arjuna. It's absolutely incredible. It's a gift.
What a day Sunday's going to be. We'll go from Formula One, have a short break, then dive into the IndyCar race at Texas Motor Speedway, where there's going to be some intrigue about how they're going to try and rubber in the track itself. Will Gibson becomes the first car to box from inside of the top 10. I said lap 90 might be the magic number. Now, never trust a commentator's math, never trust a commentator's strategy. I hope Will Gibson isn't deciding to do this because of something that I've said, that's for sure. So he'll go in the box. Cody Wenzen was there for just 7.6 seconds, which indicates to me at most 1 tire. Will Gibson was there for 8.9 seconds, so potentially 2 tires for him, DJ.
Yeah, he could be going for a strategy of those 2 tires. I doubt it's going to be a full 4 tire change for a lot of these guys. As here we come, a little bit of lap traffic getting in the way of our leader, Chris Fowler.
Nicely handled, though, as you'll get around Hugo Gallas. Next up in line is going to be Jim Herrick and then Craig Forsyth, but at least for now there is a little bit of separation. Lap 49 on the stint so far, so maybe the maximum that you'd see these cars able to go, 6, maybe 7 laps if they've been doing some fuel saving. Chris Fowler, though, his side of the car says he's cursed. He's 3 seconds clear of the field, so he's actually going to be hoping that's not true, that he's not cursed, and whoever's sticking the needles into the model car of that number 20 is refrained, because he's in a great spot as it looks like maybe another car's on pit lane. Nope, that's just a timing glitch. All the cars still out there on track.
Yeah, indeed, and we're going to have to see how this plays out a little bit in terms of him navigating traffic, especially now that he is coming up behind a long queue of those cars. This isn't going to be nearly as easy. He's got to try to do this and dispatch them with enough speed to be able to hold on to that advantage. Now, the 3-second gap that he has is going to be very, very helpful for him, but he also has to remember, as we keep saying, cars are lighter, cars are looser here, and so he's got to watch out for a little bit of errant mistakes from some of these back markers here, not through any faults of their own. It's just the nature of the beast, especially when they're running too wide like that.
That's Forsyth and Munoz, and usually when you go road course racing, we say that when you have that number 1 next to your name, they're a little bit more willing to let you go. But on an oval, that's not the case. You fight to stay on the lead lap, so if a caution flies, you're still in the mix, and that's the danger that Fowler finds himself in. Guyon has come down to pit. Jenkins has come down to pit as well. Fowler's past 1, not past the 2nd. Forsyth continues to just keep that door very slightly closed.
Yes, he does. I'm not sure I like that, but here comes Fowler now diving down pit lane. By the way, Mike Rasmussen setting the fastest lap of the race last time out, so clearly some more speed. And here comes your leader down to the pits.
Nicely done. Lap 53 followed in by O'Brien, followed in by Taylor Morgan. Goes 1 lap longer now. That car, again, will be a bit faster on the track itself. Might be able to put in just a touch less fuel depending on how long he's able to go. A lot of cars actually extending this stint out. Maybe it's the MadWorks strategy as all 3 of their drivers come in to roll off at the same time. Now for O'Brien, He's actually had a longer stop. He's going to come out alongside potentially with Taylor. Fowler 8.2 stationary, O'Brien 9.2 stationary, Taylor 8.3. Those are the numbers to keep your eyes on, as here comes Morgan, here comes Harden, here comes a bunch more cars as they work their way into the box.
And we're seeing a lot of drivers here doing exactly what Aaron Morgan was doing right there, just taking front tires. So that strategy that we potentially talked about, Arjuna, coming into play. Ricky Harden did not take any tires there in the back. I can also tell you that a couple other of the drivers, it looked like Matt Taylor and Michael O'Brien, not taking tires as well. So a bit of a gamble here for them.
And it's worked out nicely for Morgan, who's actually now jumped in front of Matt Taylor by virtue of the pit stops. We did talk about the danger zone, but it does appear as though most cars are out of that danger zone. Such was the gap that was built up. Net race leader, is Chris Fowler, who leads from Michael O'Brien, Matt Taylor, Aaron Morgan squabbling for second spot as Morgan doesn't get the best run through the corner, and Taylor tries to ramp out of turn 2, but backs out of that one for now. Committing to the inside, not necessarily where he wants to be. Looks like the rest of the cars cycling on through. Lanini, Schneider, and Herrick, the final 3, yet to come down to pit. They're just hoping that the caution drops right now. They'd be in a great spot if that was to happen.
Yeah, they would indeed, but I don't, well, with a bit of almost 3 wide there, we could see something a little bit nasty starting to take place as the leaders still continue to work their way by some lap traffic. This is where you've got to be very, very careful, especially if these drivers took some new rubber. You've got to get used to the way that feels a little bit, but they're able to eke their way by, no problem.
Take a look at this. On the road down to pit lane, looks like Lanini, and no, that's not Lanini, that's Harden that goes deep into the pit road entry, and I think, who does he run over there? I think that might be Chris Reagan there. Jump on board and take a look from his vantage point. We talked about how this place is not as treacherous to pit, and I think Harden carrying a bit more speed, Reagan carrying a bit less speed. They coincided with one another, and Reagan's the one that loses out.
Yeah, and that can really happen. That is one of the things that separates some of the best drivers here in this series, is the ability to carry speed to the absolute last possible minute coming down into pit lane. You can gain positions by doing that, and I think Reagan was just trying to be a little bit more cautious, not wanting to get a pit lane speeding penalty, and Harden able to carry some more speed. And remember, these cars do not have pit limiters. You have to keep your pit lane speed on your own.
That's what we love. More challenges for the drivers. So battle for third to keep our eye on, as Morgan has fallen back slightly from O'Brien, but still in the clutches of Matt Taylor. The battle for 13th continues to go on. It's Gabe Wood and Chris Lanini now squabbling amongst themselves down the order. Lanini again very committed to the inside line. Every car is pitted. Question would be, if we get another caution, do you come down for fuel, DJ? For tires, excuse me.
Well, I think the way we've seen this race pan out, that I wouldn't come down for tires. Track position is the absolute king around here, and I think diving down pit lane for tires here at this point would frankly be just sacrificing that valuable track position in order to maybe gain you a couple of positions off of the restart.
That's the thought process then from DJ Clark. Up to the driver's thing. That's the one that we really got to keep our eye on. Battle going on up and down through the field. I'm trying to figure out exactly where we want to be looking right now. Here comes to the inside of Reagan, Isaac Snyder. So Reagan's now all the way down in 20th position after running around in second for that first stint of the race. That's got to be heartbreaking for him. He'll lose that spot to the 13 for now. It's Craig Forsyth, a rather late pit stop for him, has worked himself down for, I think, actually the second time potentially. Not sure if there was some trouble for him, although from the pit stop time does not indicate that was the case. Will Gibson was one of the first cars to come down and pit, and he's been swarmed by Matthew Schofield and company. Looks like potentially some technical issues for Will Gibson. And we talked about how at high speeds, at Homestead Miami, that can be something difficult to deal with. Could be equally difficult on the tight confines of a short track like this.
Yeah, it certainly can. As if you've got a little bit of technical handling, you have to be so pixel perfect around here to really nail all of the corners exactly right. If you lose a little bit of speed, you lose a little bit of momentum, it's not only going to sacrifice you through the one corner, but it's going to sacrifice speed down the straightaway here and really until you can get reared up for a whole other lap. So those little technical gremlins that can come back to bite you, they are a big concern on a short track like this.
George Anzaldo gets past Adam Frazier, and I think Will Gibson has got the memo. He's going to be ducking down to pit road to get out of the hornet's nest. That's what he is going to be doing. I'm going to steal that phrase from you, by the way, DJ. Pixel perfect. I love it.
I can't take credit for that. I think actually somebody mispronounced it when they meant to say picture perfect, and I just appropriated it to sim racing.
Yeah, love it. Love it. That's one of the greatest lines I've ever heard. If you ever remember who mispronounced it, do let me know so I can give them their due credit, as it were. So Reagan now down outside of the top 20. What a day it's been for him, showing some great promise. You have to look forward to Watkins Glen. High speed, high commitment, flowing racetrack as well. Upstate New York, 2 weeks from now we'll go there. Should be a fun one. Is that the 23? I'm not sure who that is. 63, excuse me. That's Cody Wenzen trying to stay out of harm's way as the 13 of Schneider almost slides up into Guyon. You'd think this was for the race lead. No, it's for 17th spot.
But it's some very, very fierce action there leading it out. Rodriguez and Sirois just absolutely side by side. Snyder and Guyon doing the same thing behind them, trying to take it out. They get their way through the corner. The Lemoyne Motorsports machines now running line astern, but I think Snyder's going to have something to say about that.
Slides through and gets himself up into 18th spot as him and Sirois try and him and Rodriguez try and work themselves forward. Going to be a look to the inside once more as Rodriguez has gotten clear of Paul Jenkins. Of course, the third RSR car is Marius I'm going to have to ask him how to pronounce his name because I feel like I've been butchering it. So he's just Marius for now in that 23 car. He is 2 laps down with a 52-second stop for him, so potentially had a speeding penalty to serve there. Closing up at the front, not for the lead, but for second spot. I think O'Brien has caught the traffic at just the worst possible time. And there you can see Morgan, 6/10 back.
Yeah, and so crucially, he'll be able to feel a little bit of the draft here, and that'll be able to pull him in a little bit closer. Now, the problem that he's going to have to deal with is, again, that dirty air, and especially with some of these lapped cars as they work their way around. We talked about how some of these drivers will poke their nose to the inside or the outside, just try to get about a half a car's worth of clean air onto the car. Well, when you're running side by side with lap traffic up in front of you, that gets more difficult because there's more blocking the track and there's less clean air to be had. So very, very difficult. Big move there down to the inside for Aaron Morgan, very clearly wanting to get on by. He is. That gap now between himself and O'Brien has expanded back out to about 9/10 of a second, so he's still got some work to do.
I think he had to do that. He saw the gap opening up, realized that time was slipping away from him as we're on lap 118 out of 142. Still triggers me. I don't know what's going to trigger me more now that I know that this track is not actually an exact mile when they call it the magic mile. There's two things that really grind my gears. One is track corner numbers. Road America, for example, is an abomination when you look at the corner numbers. But something like that really just gets me going as well. I don't know about you, DJ.
No, it drives me absolutely crazy. Unfortunately, at this point for Road America, I've just had it locked into my head so long as that's a slow car down on the inside. I believe that's the 35 machine. Not sure what happened to them.
Paul Jenkins will bring it down onto pit road as well. So yeah, we're going to have to try and see if we can figure out what happened to a man that showed speed last year. But again, another driver that was searching for some luck. Let's turn our attention to the replay here. And out of turn 2, just into the wall. Lucky that one of the Lemoyne Motorsports cars, I think that was behind, got a good view of that and was able to duck out. And Robert Mikes as well was in a similar situation. Now that might be day done for Paul Jenkins, who was alongside with Trevor Malone, and there you can see just washing up the track, lazily going into the wall. That's a tough break, and it looks like Jenkins is done for the day.
Yeah, it is indeed, and I think what happened there is that he may have just caught some of the marbles. You can start to see him developing on the outside of the track here a little bit, running in that high lane. He may have just brought the car up a little bit too high, too late, caught the marbles, and probably bent one of those right front toe links.
So now, 35 is suddenly become 31. Will Gibson is still out there, albeit 5 laps down, so he's trying to salvage something from this race as we get closer and closer to 20 laps to go. Malone has been able to break away from this battle behind. Mike's had a chance to make it 3 wide, thought better of it. Guyon holds the 17th, up front in front of them. His teammate Sirwa gets on past. Who's that who's going quite slowly? Is that a lapped car, or am I just going a bit crazy? That's Adam Fraser. I'm not sure what happened to Fraser, who's had a bit of a bobble.
I'm not sure either, as though that car looking like he's just trying to stay out of the way of things right here, so maybe another problem with him running high there. Could have just been a loss of momentum, but we'll have to check back and see.
I wonder if... No, he's 24 laps into his stint. There's no reason why he should be saving fuel. A bit lost, I'm not going to lie, as now Fowler will come around on him to put him a lap down. Out of the 31 still running, 17 left on the lead lap. Wouldn't be shocked if we end with maybe 10 on the lead lap at the pace. And Chris Fowler is putting on the field right now. Masterclass display from that 20 car. Couldn't buy luck in 2021. His second pole position of his Retro Series career has come today. And on course, at least for now, for his first ever victory. His best finish before this, second place at Indianapolis last year.
And that was a fantastic race there with him to be able to go around like that. I was on box with him a little bit to be able to hear him talking about that. And he is a very, very accomplished driver. Just had a spat of bad luck last year, and it is good to see, knock on wood if you're a fan of Chris Fowler, some of that luck finally coming good here for the number 20 machine.
Chris Lanini's down on pit road. What has happened for the 92? Cars are having issues. I mean, 2 cautions is not bad, but cars just seem to be now finding their own pockets of issues here. Interesting.
Well, I think what may have happened with Lanini, at least I suspect it could have been the same thing that we've seen happen to a couple of other drivers, including Paul Jenkins, is just catching that outside lip, catching those outside marbles, and making slight contact into the outside wall. These cars are relatively fragile as they go, and if you catch that outside wall a little bit too hard, it can really hit you, although it looks like Lanini has come in and come out, so maybe he just miscalculated fuel a little bit.
Let's see if we can check anything out on this 92 on the racespottv replay. So out of turn 4, oh, he gets a bit squirrely, but did he get away with that, or was he in the wall? That was really hard to tell. Now watch through turn 1. He's got O'Brien behind him trying to put a lap on him. So he checks his momentum up and then tries to come down. I think this is when he's actually going to come and pit. So I'm a little bit lost, I'll be completely honest.
Yeah, as am I. Not sure exactly
Fraser's
what happened
down as
there
well.
Chris. I think we've got guys that are worried about fuel. I think that has got to be what this is.
Morgan's got past O'Brien as well while we were looking at some replays. So big move there for second on track. Your defending champion has slotted his way past. I wonder if it's tires though. Maybe it's not fuel, DJ, but maybe they're falling foul of those tires that we talked about.
Well, remember how many drivers we pointed out in that pit stop cycle that we saw last time have some problems with it. Matt Taylor falling back as well. Mike Rasmus able to get on by him. That's a lot of drivers opting not to take tires. I think you may be right here, Arjuna.
It's a new thing for everyone in this series. They're playing on the same ball game right now, on the same ballpark. There's only so much information that they've got in the strategy banks. This time by will be 10 laps to go for your race leader, Chris Fowler, who's continuing some good speed, although mixed up in a little bit of traffic, not something that really he'll be too concerned about. top 5 really do have some separation back into Ricky Harden. 3.9 seconds adrift from 5th. Might also have a visit to the steward's office when all things are said and done. And the gap for the lead is actually coming down. Is Morgan coming on strong now?
He very well might be. He looked pretty quick on that last lap. He was about 0.2 of a second faster than Chris Fowler. Fowler could be trying to back off a little bit and preserve those tires as much as possible. And if Morgan feels like he's got the car under him, he is going to be going for the push.
Remember, it was an 8-second pit stop for him. He ran a little bit longer, representing the Avatar Order Racing with Graphics LC team for his part-time campaign in 2022. Gap now down to 2 seconds. You can see Fowler's got a little bit of traffic as he works himself through turn 1. You can see how much more is left in front of him.
And I can tell you here, Arjuna, that he has been gaining in. Aaron Morgan has on every one of the last 5 laps. Ooh, that's Robert Mikes there. That is not going to be exactly great. I don't think Chris Fowler's going to take too lightly to that. Bobby Mikes trying to keep on the lead lap. A little bit of weaving there out of the 17.
Now he's allowed to fight to stay on the lead lap. When you're a couple of laps further down, that's when it becomes a little bit more questionable. Now 1.7 the separation. Close for 3rd as well. Rasmus has gone on to the back of O'Brien, and they've left Taylor in the dust. He's now 3 seconds back from 4th. I wonder if a couple of these MadWorks Motorsports cars were a bit too aggressive with the tire strategy. 6 laps to go. Where do you even want to look on track? Rasmus is right in the clutches now of being able to get past O'Brien. I don't think O'Brien can afford to fight too hard.
I don't think he can either. You have got to be careful here. Rasmus going to dive to the inside. Let's see how much of a fight O'Brien puts up.
That's not even a fight. That's a ushering on forward. Rasmus now works his way up into 3rd. Good day for him as well. Carrying forward the momentum from a couple of weeks ago, finishing on the podium. Was in the championship hunt until the last couple of rounds of the season. Watch out for him. Watch out as well potentially for George Anzaldo, right on the back of Ricky Harden. 1.7 seconds, the gap holding fairly constant between Fowler and Morgan. Looks like Morgan's now stuck in that same traffic that Fowler found himself carving through.
Yeah, look at just how tighter of a line there George Anzaldo was able to run around Ricky Harden. Harden, remember, only took those front tires. I'm thinking here that George may have taken all 4, and he is just able to drive that car and drive around Ricky Harden like he is standing still.
Yeah. Love this. I love what this maybe doesn't have in store for us today, but what it promotes for the rest of the season, where those tires and the strategies that you play with them going to be oh so important. Gabriel Wood on the back of Chris Staples with 3 laps to go, and the gap is still 1.7 seconds out front. Matt Taylor has fallen into the clutches of Anzaldo. He's got no control over his car now, going almost 1.5 seconds a lap slower. Anzaldo up into the 5th spot.
A great run there for the series organizer, really starting to power his way along. Now he's got about 4 seconds up the road to Michael O'Brien, so this may be as high as he rises, but still, Matt Taylor just dropping like a stone.
White flag is in the air though for Chris Fowler. Records are meant to be broken. Pole position has never made its way into HyperX victory lane. The driver that has led the most laps has never made it into HyperX victory lane. This is the track where the Candyman reigns supreme, but today New Hampshire belongs to Chris Fowler, who is finally a Lionheart Retro Series winner. He wins the 2022 Next Level Racing 150 at New Hampshire, presented by Buttkicker. He conquers the Magic Mile. Aaron Morgan returns to the series to finish in 2nd, while Mike Rasmus makes it 2 podiums in 2022. It was a little bit of a procession, DJ, yes, but ultimately strategy turned it on its head. Look at how the timing screen is trying to keep up with the battling further back in the field. Knowing now what we know, a lot of these drivers might have played this race just a little bit differently.
Yeah, exactly. The pit strategy here coming to be the big story of this race. little bit of celebratory donuts there going a little bit wrong for Chris Fowler, but nevertheless, he did this to perfection.
Just 2 cautions in today's race. Great result for MadWorks Motorsports, for Michael O'Brien, for Matt Taylor, as they watch their teammate burn it down in HyperX victory lane. They might be thinking that could have been a 1-2-3 podium lockout here at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Let's take a look at our SimRace 247 results. Chris Fowler finally a victor in the Lionheart Retro Series. Give a shout to Aaron Morgan, who returns to the series in a part-time campaign to finish in 2nd, while Mike Rasmus locks in 3rd. A back-to-back podium for that 68 car. O'Brien ran in 2nd for large stretches of this race, 14 seconds adrift. When all things were said and done, he barely held off George Anzaldo, the series organizer, who works himself up 8 positions into 5th. What a monster drive from Tyler Graf to gain 13 spots from his starting grid down in 19th. Great drive for him. Ricky Hardin drops to 7th in the closing stages. Matt Taylor plummets down to 8th, one of the final cars on the lead lap, with Matthew Schofield and Chris Staples rounding out the top 10. Great drive for Matthew Schofield, one of your rookies in 2022. Gabriel Wood in 11th, while the RSR Buttkicker duo finished 12th and 13th, with Rodriguez finishing in front of Isaac Snyder. David Sirwa 14th. Trevor Malone gains 11 spots from his starting spot, while Alex Guyon, Robert Mike 16th and 17th. Mike's the first car 1 lap down, who also gained 11 spots in today's race. Cristobal Valenzuela finishes in 18th, with Mike Rigney 19th. Gary Godso, one of the cars that had an end-of-line penalty, working his way up 13 spots into the top 20, while in 21st, it's Hugo Gallis, Rodrigo Munoz, and Jim Herrick, the final cars, 1 lap down. Luis Gonzalez Nunez had some troubles in the late stages of this race. He finishes down in 24th. Chris Lanini had to stop in the final stages. He finishes 25th, with Craig Forsyth Maris Valiocas in 27th. Adam Frazier as well had to come to pits. He finishes down in 28th. Cody Wenzen and Chris Reagan round out the top 30. Reagan pit on that very last lap of the race. Will Gibson, our final finisher here today, while Paul Jenkins, Danny Roberts, Dustin Wardlow, and Luke Daniels round out your field. 35 took to the grid, 31 across the line. Good race, all things considered. 2 cautions, taking out 3 of the drivers in today's race. Well, that leads us very nicely into our HyperX post-race show, because the Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperx.com. And waiting for us in HyperX victory lane, it is the first-time Retro Series winner, Chris Fowler. Chris, talk to us about the emotions of finally getting to the checkered flag first here in the Retro Series.
Well, first I got to thank Donate Life and the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation for coming on board and partnering with me again this year. Both those organizations mean a lot to me personally. They've done so much for me in my life. I'm currently 8 years from a double lung transplant, so both these organizations mean so much to me. And to finally get a win, it feels really good. Finally get that monkey off my back. We had so many close calls last year, and to finally just pull it off, it feels really good. It's awesome.
Talk to us a little bit about how this tire change has mixed things up in your mind. How has it really swung the baton in terms of tire strategy? Because it really seemed like your teammates lost out in those last couple of laps because their tires started falling away.
Yeah, I knew I couldn't make it doing double stints on that right front. There's just no way. And the way the strategies are working this way, it makes the racing really good because everybody's got different strategies going different directions. But after both warm-up races we did, I knew, my right front was down to 45% at the end of a stint. I was like, there's no way I can double stint that. And I played safe, so I took that right front and hoping that I could get some heat in those before those guys could catch me. But looks like their tires wore out, so that helped me. But traffic, man, traffic was crazy tonight.
not cursed. I think that's now hopefully the story of 2022. I mean, 2021 was rough, but you get the monkey off your back. What are you hoping for the rest of this season? Because you're busy. You're competing on all 3 fronts.
We're racing Monday and then racing again Wednesday. I don't know. I'm you know, the first one's the hardest one, so hopefully the rest of them come easy from here. We finally got that edge off. We're good. Now we can just go and fight for wins every weekend and week out. So that's our goal. You know, qualify good, finish, race strong, and get to the finish.
Congratulations, Chris. I can tell how happy you are. Go off and celebrate. You deserve it.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Chris Fowler from HyperX Victory Lane. We now drag in your defending series champion on a part-time schedule, but Aaron Morgan returns to the series, returns to the podium as well. Aaron, you said you love yourself a little bit of New Hampshire. Talk to us about how this race went for you.
It went pretty good considering how hard it was to pass. Tire strategy paid off, I guess. I was really debating doing what they did and not taking any, because that's, like I say, that definitely has to be what they did. And I guess I just guessed right on that one.
I mean, it changes things, right? I mean, it will change things on the road course. I have no doubt about that. But if this is how short tracks are going to be, you think to Iowa, to Richmond, the game has changed, and it's now about understanding what you want to do early, because it's very hard to adapt on the fly with a tire wear and tire strategy like this, right? Is this something that you like to see, or do you prefer it when we weren't changing the tires?
I don't know. I mean, because honestly, in both the practice races, I was thinking, man, I was really comfortable not changing tires and just being used to it. It was comfortable. It was easy. It put more thought on other things. But I don't know. I mean, it's a good element. I think maybe if it kind of clears up and the tire wear kind of wears a little more normally, I don't know. Maybe we'll just figure it out and then it'll become obvious later in the season. But who knows? I think it could be good or bad. It just depends on how we can figure it out and if I can keep getting the right call like tonight, right?
Well, one more question for you before we let you go. Part-time schedule, mostly on the road courses. Watkins Glen 2 weeks from now. Tell us about what you expect there. New Watkins Glen as well, compared to the last time we went racing in 2021.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping another podium. That certainly seems to be my hope in any race in retro, and especially on the roads. I didn't do so well there last year, but I think I made a step somewhere in the middle of the season forward, so hopefully that translates to 2 weeks from now.
The thing to remember as well is Sage Karam was on a tear at the start of last season. He's gone. The playing field is wide open. Congrats on the second, Aaron. Looking forward to many more good finishes from you in your part-time run in 2022.
Thanks, Arjuna.
That wraps up our post-race interviews. A great race, Aaron. Excuse me, DJ. Still thought I was talking to Aaron, but I mean, yes, it was a slight procession. But processions aren't always bad when they bring in tire strategy, when they bring in the traffic management, and we saw a masterclass today from Chris Fowler.
No, exactly. This very much was a racer's race out here. It was really a head game for everybody to try to figure out. And I agree with you, Arjuna. The way that these tire strategies are going to change the face of this series as a whole, it is going to be absolutely fascinating. I can't wait to see what happens when we go to Watkins. I can't wait to see what happens over the course of the season. There's going to be a whole bunch of races that this is really going to change everything for.
Can take a look at that schedule. 3 races in March to kick things off. It's a 2-week wait till Watkins Glen, then the first of the Triple Crowns. Then we go to Phillip Island, where DJ and I were talking pre-race. He was thinking that might be one place that he wished last year that maybe he would have taken some tires. Then we'll go to Brands Hatch for the first time in series history. That's the only race in the month of May because, of course, we've got plenty of exciting things to look forward to in the real world for the month of May. June, we go to Nashville and round things out with our own pilgrimage to the Brickyard, and the Hagara Ring will wrap out the first half of the campaign. Like I mentioned when we were talking with Aaron Morgan, it's a brand new Watkins Glen. New track surface, new curbing. It's the same fast and flowing layout to be looking forward to. That's 2 weeks from now, March 31st. 10:05 p.m. Eastern, 7:05 p.m. Pacific. And based on what we saw today, and given what you know from this car last week, DJ, is tire life going to be such a big thing there? Because I think the thing to remember with today is the load that went into those tires, because there's not much banking, is much more significant than it might be at some other ovals.
Exactly. This is a relatively flat surface. We didn't see any of these problems really develop there in Homestead. I think Watkins Glen, we could see some tire life issues. There is banking, but going around the outer loop, for example, it's a little bit off camber there, and coming down through the boot sections, those are long corners. They can eat up your rear tires in particular, and so it's going to have to be interesting. I think we're going to have to keep an eye on track temperature. If it's a hot day there, I think we could definitely be in store for some tire changes.
You do not want to miss it. Plenty more Lionheart action to come, though. Before we say goodbye to you, we got to thank those that make all of this possible, starting with your presenting sponsor of the Lionheart Retro Series. Next Level Racing is an industry-leading cockpit and motion simulator manufacturer devoted to creating the most immersive experience possible for the global sim racing community. Take your racing to the next level and visit www.nextlevelracing.com. The Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperx.com.
Buttkicker, you're passionate about sim racing, but it always feels a little flat compared to the feeling of driving a real car. Now you can actually feel what it's like to drive a race car. Buttkicker haptic hardware and software are easy to install and lets you feel every bump in the track, slip of your tire, or engine redline. The tactile feedback is so accurate and realistic, you'll be driving faster and having even more fun than before.
Moser Racing is revolutionizing sim racing with the development of industry-leading hardware and software products like their R9 direct drive wheelbase and GS steering wheel. Featuring zero-delay wireless technology and made from high-end materials, Moser Racing delivers the precision you need to reach victory lane.
Gomez Sim Industries are makers of high-end esports equipment and controls. Precision-built using nothing but the best materials available today. Passion and handmade craftsmanship drive each made-to-order build, creating a driving experience like no other. Visit GomezSimIndustries.com.
And to learn more about the rest of the partners of the Lionheart Retro Series and the Lionheart Racing Series, head to lionheartracingseries.com, where you can find out more information about the 3 competitions put on by the Lionheart sanctioning body. And with that, before we say goodbye, we let you know there is 2 more exciting races next week in Lionheart competition. First, the Speedway Series goes to the Lone Star State for the Sim Race 247 Texas 200. That's live on Monday evening, before on Wednesday, the stars of the Lionheart IndyCar Series go racing on the streets of Long Beach for the HyperX Grand Prix of Long Beach. Round 1 in both of those championships had plenty of excitement. Round 2 is sure to see plenty more. For now, though, it is time to say goodbye. On behalf of the entire team at racespottv, we thank you for tuning in. For DJ Clark joining me in the commentary booth, my name is Arjuna Kankipati, signing off for now. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time in upstate New York, but we congratulate Chris Fowler, finally a winner in the Lionheart Retro Series.